Aye.
This morning, you're going to hear a presentation involving Angela Blackburn, Brandon Booth, Ryan Cole, Kayla Crawford, and Kelly Emmert. And it will be on expediting the training of highway maintainers. My name is Angela Blackburn. I'm out of the District 8 Collinsville office. I'm the Safety and Claims Manager. I have been with the department for 29 years. I have been the Safety and Claims Manager for 16 years. Today, our topic is going to include an introduction. We're going to talk about the problem and the target, which is our highway maintainers, permanent and seasonal, training that they're getting upon initial hiring. We're going to talk about the analysis of the current condition. And that's basically what our safety program is now and the inconsistencies in the training district-wide or statewide, I should say. The desired state, where we want to be in our training of our highway maintainers when they on board. The action plan, how are we going to get to where we want to be? The benefits, how will both the department and the employees benefit from the expedited training of these new employees? And the conclusion. Russell Simmons said it best. You just have to pay attention to what people need and what has not been done. And I couldn't agree with him more. When, according to OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Act, it is said that at least 12 workers die every day on the job. That's about 4,500 employees. According to the OSHA Act, they say that about 4.1 million workers suffer a job-related injury or illness. That's a lot of injuries. And our department does contribute to that. How much, we don't know, but we do have a contributing factor to that. Let's look at this. This did happen in one of our districts. It looks very serious. This involved one of the newly monthly snowbirds. That individual had been on the job for about 90 days. It was within the first 90 days. I'm not sure how long they had been on the job. However, it wasn't as serious as it looks. The individual was plowing snow on a soft shoulder, which caused the truck to tilt. As a result, the employee was not injured, but they did take him to the emergency room for treatment just for precautionary reasons. However, the truck did sustain about $5,000 worth of damage. The problem, some of our highway maintainers, both seasonal and permanent, are being placed in the field and exposed to occupational hazards prior to completing the required training. Now, when we do that, who does it impact? It impacts the employees, the supervisors, the public, and the budget. Well, how does it impact the employees? Well, these employees are being put on the job. They may have some experience, but most of the experience that they have does not entail roadway work. It may entail farm work or something they've done in the military, but not necessarily roadway. So giving them that required training prior to putting them out on the road can help enlighten them in the possible occupational hazards they can be exposed to. The supervisor's training is needed of a maintainer before coming into the yard. Some have no knowledge if they receive any training or how much training they receive or when do they need a specific training. Their main focus is we're short-handed, we need the manpower, we need the bodies to get them out on the road to get the job done. The public doesn't always look at what our maintainers are out there doing and how the hazards that they're being exposed to and that they may be a contributing factor. All they know is that our employees are out there and they're being a problem because they're in the way out there doing the work that they were hired to do. The budget. Well, when you have injuries, repair and replacement costs, whether that's involving the department or third party, those are costs that are incurred that was not expected. So that has an impact as well. When we talk about personal injuries and how it impacts, there are various factors that come into play. We're talking about workers' compensation costs, the loss of productivity, employee morale, and departmental liability. When we talk about the workers' compensation costs, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is medical costs. Well, that is a factor in workers' compensation costs, but also you have to look at the temporary total disability. That's when an employee is off of work being paid to recover from an injury. Then you have permanent total disability. That's when an employee is probably not going to ever return to a job as a full-time maintainer based on the severity of their injury. So that employee is off and they're going to be paid. Then you have maintenance. That's when an employee is off of work for a long period of time. The doctor is saying, yes, there's a possibility that that employee could come back to work. We just don't know when. So they never put that employee at maximum medical improvement. So that employee is off. All of these factors impact morale at the yard because now you have a body that's short. You have workers that are there that is doing more work with less bodies because you have this employee that's at home being paid to recuperate or never to return. As far as the department liability, depending on the severity of the injury, if it's a severe injury, that may include a fatality, hospitalization, or amputation, Illinois OSHA is called out. Why is it? Because of the severity of the injury or the illness. What happens when Illinois OSHA comes out? There's an investigation conducted. The first thing Illinois OSHA is going to ask for are your training records because they want to know what was that employee taught, what knowledge was that employee given at the time before this accident occurred. As you've heard before from the first group, and I felt that Scott stole my thunder, but that's okay. But at least you were exposed. When you look at these numbers, that's a lot of money. In 2015, the department spent $17.8 million in workers' compensation costs. 2016, $16.3 million. 2017, $15.5 million. Now, when we did this research, if we took into account all the employees, But when we got further into the research, we had determined that 75% of the workers' compensation costs and injuries are sustained by our highway maintainers, whether it be the permanent or the seasonal maintainers. This cost basically is not the survivor benefits or the settlements. This is just the medical costs, the total temporary disability, and the permanent total disability costs. As you can see over the years, the numbers have decreased. We would like for those numbers to decrease even more. We would like for them to come out of the millions, thousands. That would be great. 0 would be even better. We know that's not realistic, but it's not an unattainable goal. And it gives you something to reach for. And like with anything with the department, 0 is always a good number to attain. So then we're going to talk about the off-road and the on-road incidents. That's our licensed vehicles as well as our off-road equipment. And that could be any of the equipment, the mowers, the end loaders, the drills. There's a lot of different things that it entails as far as off-road equipment. And these are accidents that involve actual highway maintenance. So when we're talking about the vehicle incidents, we're looking at the repair and replacement costs. We're looking at the downtime. We're looking at third-party damages as well as injuries, as well as the public safety and perception. When we're looking at replacement and repair costs, depending on when that piece of equipment or licensed vehicle was damaged, it may not be able to be repaired immediately. So it's just sitting in the yard waiting for repair, if it can ever be repaired. So there's downtime. When there's downtime, especially for an off-road piece of equipment, depending on what job task has to be done, that yard may need to borrow another piece of equipment from another yard. Well, then an emergency may come up, and that yard needs that piece of equipment that's already loaned out, so they have to go to another yard to borrow that same piece of equipment. So when downtime occurs, it doesn't affect just one yard. It can have a domino effect and affect various yards. When you talk about third-party property damage, the department has to replace or repair that third-party damage that was incurred as a result of something that the department was deemed at fault. If a third party is injured, that's cost that the department would have to incur as a result of the department being held liable. Public safety and perception. As we all know, the public does not feel like they're at fault in anything. They don't feel like they contribute to anything that happens on the roadway. It is always our workers. If there's potholes and it's not filled correctly, it's our fault, not due to the wear and tear and the weather. Our employees are out there in all kinds of conditions. They have unexpected occupational exposures at any given time. No one day is the same. No 1 second is the same. Anything is unexpected. They are exposed to various things, and our job is, as the employer, is to give them the knowledge and the skills to be able to address those exposures, to either avoid them, substitute them, or endure them in a very safe manner. The whole thing is that we want our employees to go back home safely. worth the time, whether it's a day or two, to give them that required training they need before they get out in the yard. So at this time, I would like to present our next presenter, which is Brandon Booth, who will talk about the analysis of the current condition.
Thank you, Angela. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Booth. I'm the District 4 Financial Service Manager. I've worked for the department for approximately 19 years. About 10 of those were in safety and claims, and for the last 7, I've been in my current role. As Angela mentioned, our group discovered some deficiencies, we'll say, in the current highway maintainer training program, as well as the methods we use to communicate and track those training programs. Now, I gotta be honest, when we first went down this road, I was a little bit skeptical about this topic. I mentioned I had some experience in safety and claims, admittedly 9.5 or plus years of that was in claims and not safety, but I knew the department had a safety program. I knew that we tracked it. I remember turning in sheets to get credit for the class you took, that sort of thing. I didn't imagine it could be a big enough problem to present before a board such as this. So the first meeting we had, the group and I said, well, let's start with what are the required classes that our highway maintainers have to take before they're allowed to perform their jobs? Well, there's like 5 or 6 classes, right, that these guys gotta have. So we dispersed and we went and we looked, and we reconvened a week later or something, and nobody had a list. Well, all right, let's try harder. Let's go find one. Anyway, a couple more times this happened, and eventually we discovered we couldn't find a list. There was no list. At that point, I knew that we needed to dig a little bit further. My role in this presentation is to explain to you all what's going on now. The $50 phrase for that is the analysis of the current condition. Okay, before we get to the current condition, we're going to define the highway maintainers. And most of us know this, but generally when we think of highway maintainers, we think of our permanent highway maintainers, 52 weeks a year, full-time men and women that we usually think about. But as a reminder, we have others. The winter salary highway maintainers is their official term now, because monthly snowbirds was too difficult, I guess. So you may have heard us call them monthlies. They're hired to work 5 or 6 months out of the year, somewhere between October and April, something like that. And what's important to note about the monthlies, I'm going to say, is that they perform the same job duties as our permanent highway maintainers. Therefore, they're exposed to the same occupational hazards. Our third type of highway maintainer, the snow removal operator, or hourly, you'll hear us say. These guys are hired to plow snow on an on-call basis. They're only paid when they're called in to plow snow. And because they only plow snow, their exposure to occupational hazards are less extreme. Something I want to point out right here, and I'm going to read this to get it straight, but training for all 3 classifications is currently based on occupational exposure, not job title. Therefore, required training is neither defined nor consistent statewide. And that's a lot. I'm going to read it one more time. Currently, training is based on occupational exposure, not job title. Therefore, required training is neither defined nor consistent statewide. Okay, so now we know we have 3 different types of highway maintainers. How do we get these guys to work for us? How do we get here? It's a little bit different, so this is the generalities, but after, I guess this part's pretty consistent. After the selections are made by Springfield, the districts are notified of the selected candidates. The district then extends an offer to these selected candidates, And assuming they accept, then their date's set for drug and alcohol tests, as well as physical examination. Assuming those come back clear, then start dates are set. Start dates for permanent highway maintainers are almost exclusively on the 1st and 16th of any given month. And it's important to note that there is a 30-day time limit between the drug and alcohol test and the date the employee must start. If that time frame is not met, then we're required to re-administer the drug alcohol test. Once the start date is set, hopefully Safety and Claims is notified because they have to arrange their whatever training they have planned for new permanent highway maintainers in that district, which varies around the state sometimes. And what's important to note, even though we're hiring on the 1st and 16th, we could have potentially 5 or 6 different districts training 1 or 2 highway maintainers each at the same time on the same training, potentially. That happens. Another important note about permanent highway maintainers, their onboarding process, is that even though if we're hiring 2 permanent highway maintainers, if their selection date is the same, it doesn't guarantee that their start date's the same. Our permanent highway maintainers, in essence, pick their own start date. I'm not sure why. Okay, what's next? So now we have an employee on the books. They come in to, what do? What happens? Well, this varies greatly, but generally speaking, the newly hired permanent highway maintainer will report to their assigned yard. And once they get to the yard, the OS1 or lead worker, someone brings them into the district office and they perform the perfunctory personnel training, insurance, work comp, possibly sexual harassment, those sorts of things. They get out of the way, and then there's time allotted for the Safety and Claims unit to perform whatever training they decide there. This whole process could take 1 or 2 days, again, depending on where we're at, but the amount of time allotted for the safety training unit varies greatly from district to district also, so that's a concern of ours. Again, or what I'll say, after the in-house training is done, then the employees inevitably go back to their assigned yards, and what happens then? It varies. Because why? Because there is no defined hands-on training that these employees are required to do at the yards. It's not possible for Safety and Claims to be at multiple yards at once, of course. We get 2 employees start the same day out there. It's impossible for them to be out there immediately to assist with this hands-on training, not to mention the other districts involved. This is not possible. Okay, that was a lot. Now, let's switch gears and go to our seasonal employees. We know our seasonal employees to be our hourly and monthly employees, right? Well, the onboarding procedures for them is similar. There's still a 30-day time limit between the drug and alcohol test and the start date. That's a requirement still. One big difference is the vast majority of these newly hired seasonal employees have the same start date. This is planned in advance. It's much more efficient. It's a good thing. But, always fun. Once we get a shot with these seasonal employees, they're in it, we get one chance with these guys, and then they go out to the yard. We rarely get another chance with them. And once they leave, we rarely get another chance. Another important thing to note is we could still have multiple districts performing the same training on the same day, even for the seasonals. Let's move on to the orientation now. I know you're all thrilled with that part. So, orientation. It's not all skulls and crossbones. The department has made huge strides, I mentioned, specifically by limiting the start dates for these seasonal employees. That's crucial to the efficient process that we're talking about. But what about November 1st? That's when we're having everybody over at the East Peoria Festival Lights building. We're going to train them all and knock them out. We're done. Everybody always shows up, right? No. You always have 5 stragglers that didn't make it for whatever reason. Those people still have to get trained. The process for that is similar to the permanent highway maintainers in that we're doing it in onesies and twosies, and it's just not very efficient.
was researching the seasonal employee onboarding process, I discovered that our seasonal employees are required to take a physical examination every 2 years. I also found out that our permanent highway maintainers do not have that same requirement. I found that interesting. Okay. I mentioned earlier we wanted a list of required training before we start all this. Or that was what I wanted to get started. We discovered no such list exists, and that's because training is based on occupational exposure, not on job description. And what's that mean? I'll give you an example. We have respiratory training. All highway maintainers are required to have awareness training for respirators. But not all highway maintainers are required to have a full-blown respiratory gamut training. Only the ones that perform, I'll forget something, Cheryl, I know, but perform concrete cutting without irrigation. They're in confined spaces a lot. They sandblasting, welding, et cetera, et cetera. Those people are required to have the full-blown training. Well, who decides that? Who in IDOT decides who gets the full-blown training? More often than not, it's the OS1. The OS1 is determining who is qualified, who do I want to do this training, who do I want to eventually do this work, and then they're also required or expected to know who has had the training, who's up to date on the training, and who can do it next time. This all falls on OS1, generally speaking. Which brings us to our training tracking system. Many years ago, we had a tracking system called EIS. Making sure I had the right slide up there. We had EIS, and that system was abolished, and everything was dumped into this LMS system 10 plus years ago, something like that. When that happened, there were a lot of inconsistencies in class names and titles were discovered. 10 plus years ago, oh, that's when that was, sorry. LMS, web-based database. In 2016, the safety training only moved to a system called Keller Online. When that happened, we had some miscommunication going on, just like you do when there's any change. We had some districts entered into both systems, some entered into only one, some entered this one, that one. Again, lots of inconsistencies taking place as far as data and our training records. Consistent record keeping, we need consistent record keeping to know who needs training and who's had it and who can do what job. I know that there's some new stuff coming down, but it's so new, I didn't feel comfortable putting it in here, Cheryl, so we'll just skip over that.
Do I have a target on my back here?
You make me nervous, I'm not gonna lie.
You ran it,
In 2015, okay, so we knew there was a bunch of changes in record keeping. We knew there were inconsistencies. That's a fact. I guarantee you they're not perfect. But because of that, we wanted to pull some more info. Let's see what else is out there. So we said, let's go find out this, right? And we had to, I need to point out here, we had to use 2015 data because all the consistencies we were talking about, that is the last best full year of record keeping when we only had one system, in our opinion, and plus the year. Anyway, so in 2015, less than 38% of newly hired permanent highway maintainers received training on 5 core classes within the first year. First question might pop up to you is, I thought you meant how long you don't have a list of training. Yeah, you're right, we don't have a list of training. These 5 core classes were developed by this team right here, and it was based on OSHA regulations as well as training that is most commonly trained across the state. It was easy to track. 62% did not receive this training within the first year, and in the opinion of our ALPS team, that's not good enough. Okay. I have some helpers that are going to pass out a piece of paper so I don't have to read to you completely, but while they're doing that, I talked about earlier that my role in this presentation was to tell you where we're at now, aka the analysis of the current condition. To analyze the current condition. Expedition to find out where we were at. We talked to many people individually and separately, other districts, maintainers, field engineers, we all did that. But in an effort to cast an even wider net, we decided to compile this survey that you'll have soon if you don't now. And when we did, we tried to keep it short, concise, and we promised anonymity. We did all those things to improve our response rate. We wanted to make sure we got a good response. We ended up sending this out to over 300 frontline people, including OS1s, OS2s, field engineers, lead workers, and lead workers, all across the state. We received a 50% response rate, and let's look at it. Question 1, do you know what training is required for the highway maintainers in your yard? I'm going to go through quickly since you guys have a copy of this, but 37% yes. If you add B and C, almost 2/3 don't know what training is required in their yard. These are the frontline people who respond to this, by the way. Number 2, when a new highway maintainer reports your yard for the first time, I'm going to switch slides here, sorry. Number 2, I better stay back here and put water. When new highway maintainer reports to your yard for the first time, do you know what training they completed in orientation? If you add the bottom 2 brackets here, 30% have no idea what training their employee just took. And if you include the sometimes, because let's face it, those were the folks that wanted to be honest but were hedging their bets a little bit. If you include those guys, over 55% of frontline operations personnel are inadequately informed about training for our newly hired highway maintainers. Okay, let's see. Number 3, when assigning tasks on a typical workday, do you know what training each of your highway maintainers have completed? 14% yes, 17%, and sometimes 33% ask the employee if they've completed a specific training. I literally laughed out loud when we saw those results, and then later I thought about it, and it's not so funny when you consider what's at stake. I mean, from an auditing standpoint, Joanne, how's that? You asked, were those numbers good? Okay, good, yeah. I don't know. Okay. Number 4, do you know when one of your highway maintainers training is not current or lapses? 5% always, 49% sometimes, 33% never, and 13% did not know training lapsed. And I'm going to try that with my driver's license next time it expires, and I get pulled over. See how that turns out. Our last question. Overall, how do you rate the IDOT training provided for highway maintainers? If you add up the blue and the purple, 36% think we're doing a pretty good job. The red, 38% think it's so-so. And about a quarter think there's a lot of room for improvement. Okay, let's wrap this up here. Currently, the agency does not have a uniform statewide training program for our highway maintainers. Training is currently based on occupational exposure, not job description. Our trainers have a narrow window to train these newly hired highway maintainers. Sometimes they only know a day or 2 before they come in. They don't always get adequate notice. Supervisors are unaware of the training their employees have completed. We've changed tracking systems several times. Things got lost. We know that part of it. But the current implemented tracking system, Keller Online, is only accessible by OSHA. The need for immediate manpower in the field impacts the time allowed for training. New employees are performing their job duties before being fully trained. And if you don't think that's happening in your district, then you're being naive. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we stand currently. The next question is, where do we want to be? Where do we go from here? To us, it's simple. It sounds simple. We want highway maintainer training completed before these employees are placed in the field. And we want that training done timely and efficiently. And to tell us more about that,
my friend Ryan Cole.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Cole. I am the Central Office Payroll Supervisor. I have been with IDOT for almost 3 years now. My previous work experience is about 17 years in various different accounting controller positions in many different industries. I've spent the majority of my career in business management. But today I'm going to talk to you about the desired future state of our highway maintainers, getting the training expedited. Let's first start off by looking at the feedback that came in from the survey that was sent out that Brandon previously discussed in the analysis of the current condition. We have 54 total anonymous comments left that I managed to pull out just a few that some of the operations supervisors and lead workers and lead workers, where they kind of thought we should be. A much better job needs done to make it clear what highway maintainers need to be trained on, as well as making it easier for supervisors to know easily what their highway maintainers have been trained on and for how long that training is valid. This is not the case right now. This is showing us the desire for clear training requirements listed, a way identifying employees that have been trained, and when they need to let them know that their certification is expired. Some more comments. Get the training done before reporting to the yards. Have all the training done at one time. Supervisors need to have read-only access to training records. With the new ALPS system, a lead worker can check on the license status of an employee spraying chemicals. It would be good if the training status can be accessed through this in the same format, maybe in the labor resources section. Operations supervisors and lead workers can see who is qualified to do what work before setting up their daily work orders. What are they trying to say with these comments? Our field employees just need more information that is readily available to make daily decisions. So where does this leave us? We need to define a statewide uniform training program that outlines everything that is required to get into that truck. We need to create a list of minimum required training. Training would include safety courses and classes required for all potential occupational hazards that would be stated in their job descriptions and the conditions of employment. As Brandon touched on, in the current condition, we do not have a list of training that is required right now. This is essential for the department to know who has met the training obligations required to do their jobs. We need to develop one centralized database that holds all training records. When I say all training records, I'm not limiting that to just safety. I'm talking about the personnel records, operations, and construction. We need to develop a web-based e-learning system that would have requirements per job title, the ability to take classes online, record completions, and receive notices of renewals for training needed for employees. We would want to define and develop training courses that can be utilized in this system. Supervisors should have the capabilities of knowing what training their workers have. As stated in the anonymous comments, they need to know who is qualified to do what jobs. They should not have to call into anyone to find this out, as that is not productive and does not help them do their daily job faster and efficiently. Let's talk about the highway maintainers. First, we're going to look at the permanent highway maintainers. First, we want to reduce the number of start dates statewide to be able to maximize the amount of people that we're training at one time. New hire paperwork and other required personnel training will be completed on the first day. Safety training would begin on the second day of hire and would be mandatory for all new hires. Training would include safety courses and classes required for all potential occupational hazards that would be stated in their job descriptions and their conditions of employment. Our monthly recalls, these would be the seasonal snowbirds. The first thing we want to do is, well, with a recall, who are we talking about? We're talking about those employees that have previously already worked with IDOT. The first thing that we would want to do is review their past training records to identify the needs. Training would be held on one day in each district and start on the first day of employment. Training would be mandatory and held in that district on those days. Training classes would be conducted in the order of necessity based on the number of employees to the employees that need to attend which training. So basically, if we're able to narrow down how many employees need what specific training, we can organize our schedule so that way we can get these employees to the yards much faster. With our monthly seasonal new hires, there would be one hire date per district or region. Safety training would be mandatory and required to be completed by in-person trainers. Since this would be their first time with IDOT. The training would be done prior to the employee entering the field. Ideally, all new hires would have initial in-person training. E-learning system and the web-based system that I spoke about a little bit earlier would be something that we would also only want to do in unique circumstances with a new hire. Let me back up for a second. On our recalls, I talked about utilizing an e-learning system for those individual needs. E-learning would make available training courses and or videos that would be a certain amount of time, i.e. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. They would be able to access these courses online prior to the start date. Of course, these classes would all need to be approved through all areas of training to make those available as approved for IDOT. But after completion, the employee would receive a certificate of completion that's worth an amount of time. That time would be added to their first day of employment, to their first paycheck at straight time, thus enabling us to get these individuals trained sooner and then also get them in the trucks faster. Now coming up to our hourly snowbirds. These people come out on an on-call basis. The e-learning training program or web-based system would be ideal for these individuals whose schedules conflict to be able to come in and be at the required training at certain dates. As some of these people are farmers or have other full-time jobs. This way they will be able to do their training at home prior to the start date or come into one of the yards or the districts at an approved computer station to do the training on their own time. Once again, like the recalls, they would receive a certificate of completion for a certain amount allotted time for that training that would be added upon their first paycheck when they're first called out at straight time. Finally, I want to introduce Kayla Crowther, who is going to talk about her action plan on how to get us to this desired future state in expediting the training of highway maintainers.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kayla Kroller. I work in District 3 in Ottawa. I've been with the department just shy of 9 years. Safety and claims department for around 7 years. My primary job duties are workers' compensation coordinator, and then I handle My education background is in economics, finance, and business administration. Brandon and Ryan both gave you a lot of information. Ryan's desired future state, where IDOT wants to be. I'm going to try to touch on how we're going to get there. Our first battle we had to tackle was our easiest. We currently do not have a training system that allows access for supervisors to view. The training system, LMS, that does have employee access doesn't house our safety training information anymore. But thanks to Cheryl and her team, we have a new system supposedly rolling out January 1st. It's an e-learning site. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but from what I understand, it houses solely the safety training, which we would hope to develop. Maybe once this gets rolled out, we can put all the training in it. Employees will have access. Supervisors will have access. And you will also be able to take specific training courses online. It's going to record the training records. You can also send notifications out when your training is going to lapse or is about to lapse. We had to review the job descriptions for all of our highway maintainers. One of our goals here is to look at a job description, figure out what occupational hazards these employees are exposed to, and then figure out their training. That's very hard to do when job descriptions for a highway maintainer are inconsistent across the state. Personnel has made great strides, and from what we found out, our monthlies and our hourly job descriptions are independently consistent. Our hourlies are all the same, and our monthlies are all the same. When we look at our full-time permanent job descriptions, from what we've been told, they're almost identical, but there are some exceptions with tools that individual yards use. The next thing we looked at is the required safety training. As Brandon mentioned, we don't have a defined list for a highway maintainer. It changes. Our yards are different, they have different equipment, they perform different tasks, we have specialty crews. So our goal here was to look at all highway maintainers and find a base level of required training, something that all of them need to have. To do this, we looked at OSHA regulations, and then the big help for this is OSHA just developed a 2018 course list. It has a listing of courses that they're going to be offering if they don't offer them already. These classes are in, some of them are in the works being developed, some of them have already been developed and being rolled out currently. The way this list looks, it basically has a class title, gives a little brief introduction about what the goals of the class are, and not necessarily who's required to do it, but the specific occupational exposure that it covers. It tells you how long the class is in length, how long it's good for. So what we did is we took that whole class, I think there was maybe 60 classes plus or minus, and I looked at it, we looked at our job descriptions, and we came up with a list for all three types: permanent, monthlies, and hourlies. Our permanent highway maintainers and our monthly seasonals, they're expected to work side by side for 4 to 6 months out of the year. Their job duties are primarily the same for that time period. So we lump them in one category for this minimum training requirement. We found a total of 18 classes. We're not experts on all federal regulations or the classes that OSHA is teaching, but this list that I'm going to bring up is going to give you something to look at that maybe is a little surprising. It's just not a few classes that they need. They need in-depth training. They're exposed to a lot of different things out in the field. There were additional 3 classes that we found that were a majority of going to need 4 different yards. Just passed out was a copy of the 18 courses. Again, this is open to discussion. This is what we feel that would be required to be a minimum highway maintainer. This is the stuff that we would teach to them, to those employees upon being hired at IDOT. Again, specialty crews. We have bridge crews, we have traffic crews. We also have different equipment in the yards. Those yards would be aware that their employees require additional training. Our permanent highway maintainer orientation would look a little like this. We basically want to hold a 3 to 4 day class session in a centralized location. We chose Springfield, and it would happen right away. This way, these trainers would be in-house trainers. All their training would be complete to meet the minimum requirements, and it would all be taught by consistent people in OSHU. That way you don't have the inconsistencies we have right now. In order to accomplish this, we need to limit and make start dates consistent throughout the state. On average, we have 124 new highway maintainers that are permanent brought on every year. That's using the last 3-year average. We figured 6 start dates. First day of the month, every other month. When these employees are brought on, there's a 60-day gap between each training session. This would give personnel time to get their jobs posted, get all the necessary selection stuff done, and then they would know in advance when these employees could start. We also want to make training mandatory. In order to do that, we plan to add it to the conditions of employment. Currently, right now, when a highway maintainer is brought in for an interview, before the interview process starts, we start asking questions. There's a sheet that we have to go over with them. Right now, it's got 3 things on it, I believe. It asks to make sure they have a Class A CDL. Requires them to be able to lift 50 pounds. It also requires them to be able to report to headquarters or their yard within 45 minutes for an emergency situation. We would put right on there that training is mandatory and they have to attend this 3 to 4 day class session. We would, at that point, since training and these class sessions are already defined on what days they're offered, we could put the dates on there as well. So these employees know in advance, upon interview, that they would be required to take this. A typical day, day 1, the employee would report to the headquarters, do your general personnel paperwork. You would also have your personnel training, sexual harassment, personal policies in place, so forth. Day 2 through 5, they report to Springfield for this training. Upon release, day 6, they'd be back in their yard. And then at that point in time, if the yard had other required training necessary, they would have to coordinate with their safety rep in their district and get that training accomplished. This is kind of new to IDOT because we don't usually have highway maintainers traveling places. We looked at using their personal vehicle for travel, hotel costs down here in Springfield, and your per diem each day. You're roughly looking at $53,000 a year. It would cost to have our maintainers travel to a centralized location to complete this training. For our monthly guys, these are the guys who work 4 to 6 months full time. The new hires, they're new to IDOT. We're going to keep this process similar to the permanent guys. We want to hold another 3 to 4 day class, but instead of bringing them to Springfield, we're going to keep them in the district, maybe pair your district up with your region. We're doing this because every year we hire an average 1,200 monthly snowbirds. The number of new employees varies every year. Our monthly snowbirds have 2-year callback rights. A lot of times we don't know who's coming back in advance notice. So this number can change. We figured about 20% of our 1,200 are going to be new employees every year. We also, with this category, need to add training as mandatory. We need to add it to the condition of employment as well. Again, we had 1,200 people roughly. We looked at 20% of that being new employees. We figured half of those employees would need hotel accommodations, since we're keeping it a little bit more central in your district and or region. And you're looking at right about $52,000 a year to train these guys. Our recalls. These are our monthly guys who are coming back. They're not new to IDOT. Most of them do report to the district already. Some go straight to the yards. But in this situation, we have all the guys in one spot. Why not offer them some in-house training? So at that point, we would like to evaluate their training records, figure out what we need to do, what's a priority, what most of the guys need. We would offer in-house training that day. And then, within the yards, in the first 2 weeks, they would utilize the e-learning system for their individual needs. Anything that's lapsed, anything that has new standards, but they could do this in the yards. For hourlies, since their occupational exposures are different than our permanent highway maintainers and our monthlies, we had developed a list for them of what classes are required. We came up with the following 4 classes: emergency action plan, personal protective equipment, hazard communication, and heavy equipment training. Basically, for our hourlies, in an ideal situation, we would love for these hourly employees to utilize our e-learning system at home prior to coming into IDOT. This way, those guys come in on their first day, they sign their paperwork, and then they're good to go. On that day, when they report to the yard and get that paperwork completed, they would have their hands-on evaluation for heavy equipment training. Besides that, they would go through their general operations training, and they'd be ready to get into a truck. Right now, a lot of the districts don't even train hourly employees for safety. There is no investment cost for hourly employees. The districts that do train them, they're brought in and we already pay them for it. There's no additional costs. If we have them utilize the e-learning system at home, they're going to get a completion record, as Ryan stated, and on their first day of employment, it'll be added onto their check. This completes my action plan. I know it was a lot of information, and we've given you guys a lot of information over the last hour or so, but Kelly is going to come up here and talk to you guys about the benefits of our action plan and how it's going to be utilized to create a uniform and highly defined workforce.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Emmer, and I am the District 4 Personnel Officer. I've been with the department for 33 years, and in my last 4 years, I've been in my current position. I will be discussing today the benefits of our action plan. So did everybody have a nice drive coming in today? more in my current position. I'm going to be discussing today the action plan, the benefits of our action plan. What are the benefits of trained employees? Every employee having a defined statewide training program, and when you follow through with our action plan, what are you going to get? Trained employees. Every employee will be provided with the ample amount of training to do their job. And if not, how are they supposed to know what to do, how to do it, and especially in a safe, effective, and efficient manner? With our action plan, properly trained employees will have an increased level of confidence, reduction in personal injuries, reduction in vehicle and equipment accidents, and a transparency guidelines for them to follow. Increased employee confidence. Because training gives them knowledge, properly trained employees, not only do we provide resources to them, but it also gives them an improved level of performance in their job duties, which instills confidence for them to assess, react, and resolve isolated incidents, which in turn provides them the tools to do it, and also teaches them to be aware of their surroundings. Giving them the opportunity to take the proper steps and recognize potential situations, while keeping themselves and others a priority. Faith in coworkers' ability. Training not only provides textbooks, knowledge, or operational procedures, but I think training goes down deeper at a personal level, because the employee wants to feel confident, self-worth, and have even a comfort. Knowledge is a powerful thing, and you're going to hear me say that over through my section. When trained employees are provided with the proper training, they have the trust in themselves and their ability, not only in themselves, but they're also going to have the same trust in their coworkers' ability, knowing that they were properly trained as well. Training, confidence, trust equals safety. Let me repeat that one more time. Training, confidence, trust equals safety. That's a powerful equation. Reduction in personal injuries. Any time that we can reduce injuries, it will be a benefit to the employees, coworkers, and taxpayers as well. A reduction in personal injuries will guarantee lower workman's compensation costs, which leads into OSHA statistics. Per OSHA statistics, implementing effective training program will reduce workman's comp costs by 10 to 40%. Let's face it, we all know that we're going to have some accidents, we're going to have some workman's comp costs, but if we can reduce it by 10%, that's a benefit. Reduction in lost time of accidents. By reducing injuries and time away from work for the employees that were injured, and will minimize providing a stable workforce. What I mean by a stable workforce is a full crew with ample amount of training on the crew with employees. The employees have an ample amount of training to do the job. And when they don't, you're going to have crews that are less, which causes accidents, which causes additional work for them. But if you have the right amount of trained, properly trained employees, you're going to have the job done correctly, quicker, and even in a safe manner. Trained employees are safe employees. Safe employees are happy employees. With that combination, you're going to have increased employee morale. Employees want to feel a sense of pride, knowing that they have the abilities to perform their job to the best of their ability, and the mindset to do it in a safe and productive manner. They want to feel a sense of community, knowing that management genuinely cares about their safety. And feeling of self-worth can thrive and spread through the workplace. And importantly, morale will go up. Like Angie said regarding OSHA, she touched on this. Decrease in department liability. It's never good when the department's found at fault for an accident. And there's certain criteria that OSHA will and can investigate. Fatalities, hospitalization, and amputation. And if they find that the employee that got hurt was not properly trained, we will get a citation or fines. But with our action plan, we guarantee that we will limit the department liability, because we want to ensure that every employee is properly trained and not working in dangerous situations. Here is year 2017 potential workers' comp savings. OSHA has done the research for us. And OSHA statistics shows 10 to 40% savings, but this is only at 10% savings. And this is strictly highway maintainers only. This my jaw is dropping because the money that we would be saving if it was even 10, if it was 40%. Just think about that. Just think about the savings that we will have. Reduction in vehicle equipment accidents. Training, hands-on practice, knowing the equipment. All of this is effective reduction in vehicle accidents, which in turn will lower our risk of injury and lower the vehicle equipment downtime. Properly trained employees know their equipment, operating procedures, and their safety precautions. Properly trained. This leads to fewer repairs, less rental, borrowing equipment, I think Angela said before, borrowing equipment from yard and having all that preparation that you need to get it to one yard to the other. This will reduce. We won't have much of that, because the better we train our employees, the fewer mistakes we make, will have. Reduce, replace, replacement costs. The best way to reduce, replace, repair, replacement costs is preventing the accidents from happening in the first place. Repair and replacement costs is just what it says. Improve public image. So let's take a moment to recap. Because training is so fast, the benefits of training are so fast, training gives the employee confidence, which in turn leads to a safe working environment. Decreases workers' comp claims, downtime, and equipment damage. All the while increasing productivity, money savings, and improving the trust in coworkers, which can change the workforce in a positive way. When our action plan is implemented, our trained employees will help pave to improve our public image. By money that we save from repair and damages and all that workers' comp, we can increase our work manpower out in the field for clean up debris, road maintenance, filling up the potholes. And we want the community to feel back up. Our trucks and our equipment will want to be something proud of instead of rusted or damaged. And people want to be proud of their community. And with that, that's just a start. Benefits for trained employees is transparent training guidelines and having a statewide training program. A happy and productive workplace is one that shares information freely to empower their employees. Transparency builds trust and good relationships between employees and supervisors and management. It will ensure procedures are set in place all across the board to make sure that we're all on the same page. And it's just that simple. Keeping training records in one centralized database. Supervisors permanently in the loop for accessing training records. And with that, they have proof to go look into the system to make sure that they have that employee has the proper training. That's the key. Supervisors need to be aware. Meet mandatory. Training requirements. Our action plan created standardized listings of training for new employees that completed when hired. This will ensure employees that are trained with all required OSHA classes that are mandatory. Continuing training through the length of their employment repeats the benefit over and over. After this is implemented, training records will be used for supervisors to select specific employees for the skills that they need to do a particular job or assignment. Condition of employment. Our action plan finally created a list for newly highway maintainers. Having these classes will benefit the department simply by defining expectations to uphold for the uniform training procedures. By making training a condition of employment, we ensure that our highway maintainers are fully trained before being exposed to occupational hazards. And that's a big deal. To wrap up our presentation, I would like to
reintroduce Ryan Cole.
Summing up, I think Mark Twain says it pretty good. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Safety of our employees should be our #1 priority, period. I hope that we were able to show you through our presentation what we are doing is broken, inconsistent, and inefficient. But with some reworking of our current processes, we feel that we can get to that desired future state through the action plan that we set forth to maximize the benefits to the department, to the employees, and to the public. At this point, this will conclude our presentation, and I would like to invite the rest of my team to join me as we open up the conversation to any questions or comments. Liz?
Very good presentation. I think you guys did incredible research, and I agree that safety training should be our #1 priority. However, when you were researching, did you look into or consider any of the additional classes that IDOT requires for employees, and how we put that into a training plan for highway officers?
I believe the question you're asking is, did we research any other training requirements other than just the training safety portion of that? Yes. There are other, like I had stated in our desired future state, we wanted to try to incorporate one database that would hold all the required training that would be required from site safety, but also personnel required, so that all those would be accessed in one place. They could also be viewable as PDF viewable or accessed by supervisors and the employees. That answers your question.
Okay,
Cheryl.
Brandon's trying not to look at me. That's me. I just want to make one brief statement. You know me, I like to be really brief. These are 5 people here at IDOT that get it. And that's not an understatement. That is a very important statement, because safety here at IDOT has not always been, and I don't like the term priority, but I'm going to give you a pass on that one, has not always been built ingrained to everything we do. These guys get it. And all their solutions, I don't think one of you can touch it from a moral standpoint, which Kelly talked about, a moral standpoint, a compliance standpoint, or a physical standpoint. There's not one argument against it, and you guys made the full argument. And I like that, because some of the people behind me like numbers, some like operations, some like, personnel side of it. You hit all of it, and that's something that no one asked you to do. You guys get it, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you for the action items. I just got out of this quite a bit. And don't think I'm not voting calling, told. I have a couple questions though. How do you think the policy days, Angela, I'll ask you, how do you think the policy days procedure impacts our costs for lost days and TTD and all those things?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. How do you think the policy days that we give our employees who get injured at work impact those numbers you presented on the cost?
How does the policy days impact the cost of
Your workers'
the
comp
workers'
costs.
comp cost? The policy days do have a big impact on that cost, but it's not actually incorporated in the cost for the simple fact that they're still on regular payroll. So it's as if they're still working, but off work. The cost really goes in effect when you're talking about medical, but it does have a real vast impact on our work comp costs, for the simple fact that there are a lot of policy days that are used that We believe that should not, we believe that a lot of employees get these policy days just for GP, general purposes, because they know they can get them. And we believe that if the policy days are reduced or taken away, that could help make an impact on work comp benefits and costs.
I got a question for Brandon too.
Of course.
He's scared to death of me right now. You kept mentioning 30 days, that 30 days in there between start date and, what is the other term, selection date? Is that correct?
30 days between drug and alcohol tests being administered and the start date. That's what I was.
What are you recommending we do in that 30 days? You mentioned it at least 4 times.
Well, I was probably looking for my next line. What Cheryl's asking is why, what is the relevance of the 30-day time limit with reference to the start date? And that's between the drug and alcohol test and the start date. Because we know that we're trying to limit the start dates for one. We have to be careful with that 30-day requirement in doing so. You know, we're trying to figure in all the potential problems. Granted, I know we missed a bunch of them, but is there anything else that I missed that you guys are
I think the priority, the main concern between that 30 days is we don't necessarily get those results quick either. So if they take the drug and alcohol test on day 1, by day 30, we have to have them on the books. We don't necessarily know if they're going to even come on though, because we have to wait for the impeding results of those drug and alcohol tests. Once those are known by personnel and they're ready to bring this person on, it's more of the time frame that safety and claims is notified, I think, about when these people are going to start. That was our main, I guess, goal to try to show you guys that safety and claims isn't always notified and doesn't have ample time to prepare training for these new hires. I mean, if the drug and alcohol tests come in and they call the employee and tell them that they're ready to come into work, the scheduled start date, I mean, they could come in 2-3 days. And there's not a lot of notice then for safety and claims to prep that, along with their other job duties that they have.
The point I was trying to get at, and I appreciate you guys tag teaming the answer for me, because that gives me time on the e-learning system to have an employee ID, have it uploaded, and have their training curriculum set ahead of time for that employee. So that's why I was hoping that's what that 30 days was for. And then if the person, God forbid, should fail the test and not be hired, it's a simple delete. It's not that big a deal. So that's what I was looking for, that 30-day window. It was a personal thing. It wasn't as much as a whole. It was me.
Next time you want me to talk more in my presentation, I got it.
I do, yeah. And I will ask the question on conditions of employment, because you mentioned a few for highway maintainers. I'll be honest, I've done interviews in a couple different districts. They're different in every district for every highway maintainer. And I'm amazed at the difference. So I really like that element of it. Do you guys have any suggestions on how best to go about attacking some of that?
I think you're asking, do we have any suggestions on the conditions of employment to try to make it, to get them on as conditions of employment? Is that what you're asking?
That and how to make it consistent.
The best way to do that, we did talk to some people in personnel, and they said that that is something that can be added to the conditions of employment and to the job description, except that it also would have to go to CMS to go in front of a panel for review. But that is something that can be done, except it does take CMS to approve it.
That's
As far as
challenge there.
as far as the job description,
Okay.
because it's a
Okay. One other question for Kayla is, you're the first one to mention quality of training. That's something I think you guys picked up. Would you like to expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah. So Cheryl wants to know a little bit about the quality of training that is offered at IDOT. What Cheryl and her crew are trying to do is not only, I guess, design classes, but make sure that the classes that you're teaching are IDOT specific. They're trying to develop the training. This does take time and collaboration. I know a couple of the classes that she's rolled out, she used the same trainers to teach those classes throughout the state. And I think it helps with consistency, as well as your quality of training. E-learning, from what I understand about the e-learning process with these online classes, they're just not going to be you sitting on a computer reading through slides. There are going to be interactive quizzes, models, diagrams. I believe with the traffic control one, you actually have to set up a work zone. There's also quizzes to make sure the competency of your level of competency after you sit through the classes where it needs to be as well. But I guess IDOT's training has been more, in the past, has been more procedural, as far as, I don't want to say, like, it's basically been standards. It wasn't really IDOT specific. And I think that's a hard topic, and you need people at IDOT to help develop those courses so that the training is relevant to the actual job duties that they're doing.
Thank you. That's what you guys worked really hard on that, and you helped us a ton. So I want to give you guys credit for that. She kept saying she and me, but just talking to you guys on the phone, a lot of stuff got ironed out, and they really worked hard on that aspect too. I just don't think that really came up in the presentation as much as I would have liked to have seen it, just because quality is key. Because you can do a checkbox training all you want, and honestly, that's been a bad habit here and at other places. Oh, we checked the box, you're good, you can go do that now, versus actually qualifying them. And I think you mentioned, Ryan, about going out and doing, get the training and then going out in the field. Every one of our e-learnings have a hands-on component to it. So you don't end with just reading your PowerPoint or dying by PowerPoint or anything like that.
To add on that a little bit, when I was talking about the desired future state of e-learning and the web-based training system, ideally, it would be also great if guards could have equipment-specific training available for them to do too, so that way someone could take a course in that kind of training and then also have the training in the yard, because you never have too much training on equipment for safety.
And I think you'll see that, and that's one of the things I'm very, very proud of. It's not at that stage yet.
Right.
But if you take heavy equipment operations, you get the safety aspects of the different pieces of the equipment, and then you can also take other components in there, like on the specific Caterpillar inload or whatever, with the manufacturer's manuals, and all that would be included in it. So we are not limited on the e-learning. Right now, we're limited to health and safety just because we have the most classes at IDOT that are required, but we have the supplemental classes in there too, which you guys really helped us focus on as well, because yes, the OS 1s and the OS 2s, whatever their title are, really do want that information, but as your survey that Brandon showed so clearly, they don't always know. Sometimes they're put in a position of not knowing what those requirements are, so they can get some of the softer skills, and I hate that term, but the supervision skills training on safety, so they know how to better evaluate that too. So it's a full picture, and you guys helped us a ton, so I want you guys to know this was not a one-way, and we're very proud of you guys being able to pick it up. I just talked to Deborah. Our 2019 strategic plan will include a lot of your initiatives that we haven't met already, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question, and it goes specifically to our winter help, our monthly snowbirds, and our hourlies. And I don't really see on the action plan anything specific for snow and ice training. So some of that can be taught e-learning, but a lot of that is on the job, hands-on, learning the truck, learning the route, training. So one of the biggest challenges we have is the budget of bringing on, 120 some people for an extra 2 weeks. I guess what I'm getting to is, do we bring them on November 1st or do we bring them on November 16th? Down south, we bring them on even later from what I understand. So that's a big budget issue that we run up against in trying to get these guys on early enough to get them trained. And I was wondering if you guys looked at that, because we literally in our district, we had to hire them on the 16th of November. They went through their personnel training and whatnot. So they literally had 2 to 3 days before we threw them in a truck in that blizzard on the 25th and 26th of November. And I'm really surprised that we didn't have guys handing their keys back to us saying we're done. Because they literally had no training going into that storm. So just wondering what your action plan might be for that.
Our project looked at solely safety training. We didn't look at any operations, winter or ice training. I think another issue with talking about operations training for your snow and ice, I don't think that's consistent through all the districts either. So because we don't have an action plan for that because we didn't look at operations training.
You're mainly focused on the newly hired highway maintainers.
I'm going to direct this towards Kayla since she talked about it, but any of you. You talked about having set start dates for all of your types of, whether it was full-time permanent HMs or your monthly HMs. And I think for the full-time, you're talking every other month, the first of the month. Have you talked to anybody out in the field to see how they thought or felt about having the people come on only at those times and how that would impact their operations?
The question was with the permanent HM plan to limit start dates and having them come on every other month with consistent start dates, and if we've talked to anybody in the field about that. We have not talked to anybody in the field about it. The impression the team has gotten from talking to individuals is, or throughout IDOT, is we need manpower, and they need it now. And we understand that, but at the same time, that jeopardizes the employee's safety. We did try to think of maybe like a response or two for that, but at most you're getting the people in the trucks potentially 30 days after when you could have had them on the suit, first response. There's always time every interview takes time, the selection process takes time. I think we're trying to make that a little bit shorter, but from the time that they're actually selected, the maximum amount of time that would be 60 days. Hopefully we could limit that down to 30 if personnel would post the jobs maybe together a little bit closer to.
Just a comment. Basically, that would be a trade-off then. When you get right down to it. Which one do you want? Do you want them quicker or do you want them trained well?
Joanne, can I add to that? We understand the question, and we understand it's a problem. We understand we need people hired yesterday in a lot of different places other than highway maintainers. But we don't want, and we specifically said, we don't want the need for immediate manpower in the field to impact the training these guys are receiving. We don't want it watered down because we need them piling snow. That's not a good enough answer for us. That's part of Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've got a question for Angela. When you were talking about the workers' comp cost to the department, and you gave us, I think, 3 years worth, and I noticed that they have declined a little over $2 million from 2015 to 2018. We're not doing this training. Do you have any idea of why our workers' comp costs are going down since we aren't training them like you want us to?
The question is, do we know why the cost is going down due to the training that our employees receive? Well, that cost is not just with IDOT, it's an overall cost, and how we calculate it is the impact. And it all depends on what the salary is, how long they're on. Some may not have been on as long in the other years as they are currently. So they're coming back to work quicker. The laws changed, so a lot of payouts, the settlements are lower, so that reduces your cost as well.
Brandon, you had this Harvard survey, which I thought was excellent, #1. Did you guys work on any solutions as far as the supervisors not knowing how to track the training or what training is needed?
The question is about the supervisors and how do they find out what training the employees had and what they haven't had. We talked about how currently the supervisors don't have that access, but from what I'm told, the new system, this e-learning system or whatever it's going to end up being called, there's more access. I don't understand the full capabilities, but that is something we want. We definitely want the OS1s, the field engineers, all the ops, frontline personnel to have access at their fingertips to who's been trained on what. Yes.
And follow up, in your opinion, as a panel, would you say the supervisors should also attend the training that their people?
The safety training you're talking about? The question is, should the supervisors of the people that are attending the training also attend the training? And I don't know why that would hurt.
Thank you. You guys did an excellent job. I was very, very